As Pastor Keith said, this is Celebration Sunday. So I think we'll start off. Does anybody have an anniversary this month they'd like to share? Hillary does. Okay, go ahead, Hillary.
I do. For Missy and Gary Torkower on July 1st. It was their 8th anniversary.
She's overly excited for it. Anybody else? 19 years. Okay, did she prep you before you came?
I remember that on my own.
You have a ring on your hand, don't you? Anybody else this month? Okay, how about birthdays? Usually do some birthdays. We have Matt with his hand up.
I have one on Tuesday.
Tuesday, what's it?
I'll be 22.
22. And so what is our country's birthday? Happy birthday, country. Missy? Hillary's is in July. July 12th, she just wanted to tell us. Okay. Miss Wendy. She's got like half handouts. She doesn't want to go all the way up. She's kind of halfway down.
Abigail's birthday is the 29th.
Happy's.
July 17th.
I'm sorry.
Jackson, July 17th.
Jackson.
Thank you. Jackson Garrison, July 17th. Oh, I'm sorry. Pete Brown. Mr. Brown.
We have two in our family. Grace will be 10, and Mason will be 16.
Put a smile on back there.
Right, I'm not driving anymore.
Anybody else? What about milestones? Go ahead.
Plus 34 pounds.
She's lost 34 pounds. This is Miss Doris.
I think this is a milestone. Kenny and I met 59 years ago on July 3rd.
Congratulations. I like Miss Barr. That's right, go ahead. All right.
On July 21st, we will welcome our child birthday.
July 21st, right? Maybe Hal will be coming on July 21st. Henry. His baby will. Henry Hal, July 21st. Are they ready for it?
Yes.
Oh, and they're ready too. That's even better. Anybody else? Milestones in the back, Mr. Pappas?
Gavin started walking. So, a whole new level of fear.
Hey, wait till he starts driving.
Anybody else? Okay, am I missing anybody? Last chance. Okay. We have two prayer requests this week. McKenna Knopf is having her tonsils and adenoids out tomorrow at Mercy Medical, so she needs some prayers. Also, Sharon Vaughn, that's Tammy Piercy's aunt, is having cancer, kidney cancer, has kidney cancer. And Susan Burleson is praying for good news from her doctor. So we lift them up for prayer. You join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, I just thank you so much for the joy to come here at church and celebration Sundays, and just the joy to lift those up. Lord, I ask that you be with the prayer requests we have tonight, and that you be with the many prayer requests that we didn't share with you, that you touch each person that's here. I ask that you be with Pastor Keith and his message, that we might learn something from him. Lord, I ask that you be with us as a church, this community. Lord, just help us this upcoming week. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Chuck. There's some exciting stuff out there. I didn't know that about my parents. Met on July 3rd, 59 years ago. That's pretty exciting. Were you going to fireworks or? All right. Let's keep it. Got young kids and my son. He does not want to hear his grandparents talked about like that. Oh goodness, good stuff. So it's good. Yeah, neither do I. Right? So we've been doing a series here, lessons from the toy box, kind of looking at those toys we grew up with, played with, and kind of what can we learn about those still today. So we're looking at the Rubik's Cube. Isn't that cool? By the way, Mike Sears made all these cool toys up here. The Etch-a-Sketch, the plane, the Rubik's Cube. Huh? Pretty cool, isn't it? Yeah. That is the large print version there. So I was born in 1970. Did a lot of my growing up in the 80s. Anybody else an 80s kid? Okay, a couple others. All right, good. Well, let me, even if you're not, let's flash back for a second, okay? How many people were born in 2000 or later? Oh, that just makes me feel really wonderful. All right. A flashback, if you will, to the 80s, okay? So let's look at some fashion first. Yes, remember that? Practically every girl in my graduating class, 1988, her picture looked like that. So there it was. I blame probably the hairspray used in that decade for our global warming issues. And the bomber jacket, remember? The bomber jacket, the peg jeans. Yes, you see down here the peg jeans. That was big. Let's see some people of the time. Ronald Reagan there, and then Princess Di. Remember that? Some artists, some musicians. Madonna, Michael Jackson. So work that into the worship set, will you? Madonna and Michael Jackson. She did like a prayer, right? Let's see, how about some toys and some other cultural things, right? How about the Cabbage Patch Kid? Remember that? People lined up for hours trying to get the Cabbage Patch doll at Christmas. I'm not sure, somebody may have even been hurt over that. Trivial Pursuit came out too. That game that got everybody talking and things. Now you have all sorts of Trivial Pursuits you can get. Seinfeld Trivial Pursuit, one for every decade. Tons and tons of stuff. So that brings us to the Rubik's Cube, which was also a big toy in the 80s. It was the one that kind of defined that generation, and here we have it. So let's look a little bit about it first, kind of get caught up here about our Rubik's Cube. It was invented in '74 by a 29-year-old Hungarian architecture teacher named Enro Rubik. So that's where we get the Rubik's Cube. He actually lived in Russia, and at that time, during the Cold War, it was what they call the big curtain, right? The Iron Curtain, thank you. He lived in the Iron Curtain. So the chance, and if you think about this, the chance of anyone becoming like a self-made success behind that Iron Curtain during this time was little to none, until this guy moved this. And then it was this puzzle that finally broke through that curtain and was released worldwide 6 years later and sold over 100 million units by 1982. And it really kind of threw the Iron Curtain into a little bit of disarray. This guy, he was the first actual self-made millionaire from that era. All right, so looking a little bit more current here, over the last 25 years, people have purchased more than 250 million Rubik's Cubes. How many in here have got at least one or at one time bought one? Okay. I remember having one as a little keychain, which is really frustrating to try to work. It's small. One of the best-selling toys in history. All right, and then they have has anyone ever solved the Rubik's Cube? 1, 2, 3. Now listen, Matt, pulling it out of the box in the way it is does not count as being solved. You still gonna raise your hand? Okay. Actually solved. I accidentally solved it once, and I do say accidentally because, I was just turning and turning, and then like, amazing. Nothing more quite as satisfying. Be right next to my kid's birth than solving the Rubik's Cube. So they have different records. Here's the latest record, right, of making this 10.48 seconds at the U.S. Championships in 2006 to solve the Rubik's Cube. A couple other world records here to note. Maybe you want to try for one of these. One-handed at 20 seconds. Blindfolded at 23. Using your feet. 1 minute, 18 seconds. And the number of cubes solved in a 24-hour period, 3,390. Some of those records I just don't even really be a part of. Using my feet. Toes. Alright, so tonight we're going to talk about the Rubik's Cube. Teaches us about decision making. It helps us kind of look at how do we make decisions in our life, and for what do we base our decisions on, and who affects all of these decisions. You see, I was teaching math here, but the way to solve a Rubik's Cube is really only in two ways, right? The solution to this cube can be found by either by the book or by cheating. By cheating, you can peel off the colors and then put them back on. I hadn't thought of that one. Or even disassemble the whole thing and put the things back together. Or by the book, which is actually figuring it out and going through the process. So, as we look at our own decisions we make, really there's still only two ways, right? It's either by the book or by cheating. All right, so the decisions we want to make are by the book, which the book we go by would be the Bible. Now, when you do things correctly, it creates order. And when you do them wrong, it creates chaos. So there's that idea of if you take that shortcut or if you cheat, you're going to create chaos instead of creating order. The little cube up in the top right corner is an indication. Maybe jot this note down or jot this scripture passage down as you work into it. But what we want to do when we make our decisions is to create order, to help the system around you, whether it's your family, your work, your community, help create order and not chaos. Let's look at Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust God from the very bottom of your heart. Don't try to figure out everything on your own. See, there's that by the book or by cheating, right? Don't try to figure it out on your own. Listen for God's voice in everything you do. Everywhere you go. He's the one who will keep you on track. Don't assume that you know it all. Run to God, run from evil. So there it is. Go by the book, not by the cheating. So once we have this cube and working it and get it all mixed up, no matter how mixed up that cube becomes, our ultimate goal, right, is to get this all the colors to match on all 6 sides. So we want to get everything back into the order of the way it should be. I don't know, did you ever have like days, months, weeks in your lives where your cube is just out of whack? And you keep making decisions to try to get that back in place? And sometimes you feel like, boy, every decision I make is another turn the wrong way of this Rubik's Cube. And then we get back to God and say, hey, God, help me with this. And then He starts unveiling the proper turn for it. James 1:5-6 says, if you don't know what you're doing, pray to the Father. He loves to help. You'll get His help and won't be condescended to when you ask for it. Ask boldly, believing without a second thought. So there it is. When you're stuck, turn to God. Turn to God in prayer and just lay it all out there. God, I don't understand what's going on. Sometimes we do that. We take life so much on ourselves and we start making all these decisions. Now we've created chaos and we're really, really in a pickle. We've got ourselves so much in a place we can't get out of it. The only thing we do is turn to God. And look at that. He loves to help. We are not bothering God when we stop and pray to God. Right? You are never bothering God. He loves to help us. So these decisions you make and the rules you make will help you establish your character. So if you go around making a lot of bad decisions all the time, that's going to affect your character. Same thing, let's think in the workplace. You go around making a lot of good decisions that help your work and the people around you, that's going to build up your character. So what is it that guide your decisions, because those decisions help create your character. Isaiah 30:21 says, whether you turn right or to the left, your ears will hear a voice behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it. Jesus guiding us. So when we're stuck and we're ready to make these decisions, Jesus is saying, listen to him. This is the way I want you to go. This is the way that's going to lead you. And you know, you can ask Jesus for help at any time with your decisions. It can be financial help. It can be relationship help, emotional help, spiritual help. There is no topic off limits to Jesus. Simply talk to him, and then you're going to hear that voice saying, this is the way you should go. This is the decision you should make. And you know what? You're going to feel really good about that in your soul. You're going to feel this sense of peace, this overwhelming love come into you that says, yeah, this is right. This is it. And that helps you. Your character is grown on that. Now back in this was actually, let's move up to the early 90s here. Did anyone ever wear one of these bracelets? Yeah, I remember that. What would Jesus do? This big thing that swept over the nation, and it was around for a long time. And yeah, you know, some people make fun of it and stuff, but man, what an easy and great way to look at our decisions. What would Jesus do? It's still applicable today. It was really a genius idea for it to come along. So if you're struggling for that, you're struggling with the decision, just ask yourself that. It's great. What would Jesus do? When it comes to helping someone, what would Jesus do? When it comes to giving of your time and your energy and your resources, what would Jesus do? What has he taught us? Let's go back to the book and look at it. Because all these decisions you make help guide you and also affect people around you. So there are no shortcuts to good decisions. There are right moves and wrong moves. There's not a whole lot of gray area in this. It's either a good decision or it's a bad decision, right? Sometimes you might have to wait to see how it plays out, but ultimately you're going to have a good decision or a bad decision. So let's go back to our cube here for a second. So you're working it, you know, and you're getting frustrated, but you keep working the cube, right? And every time you move it, you're either getting closer to the solution or further away, right? So how many possible moves do you believe are in one Rubik's Cube? How many? 4 billion. Any other guesses? How many? Don's calculating in his head. What is it? Infinite? Not quite infinite. How about 43 quintillion possible moves? Quintillion. I never knew that one. I thought I'd give you all the numbers there so you can see what it looks like. But you see, there's only one solution. All these moves in one solution. So just like our decisions affect us in how we decide things and as we move through life, there's a ton of different ways we can go. But really, there is only one solution. So despite that huge number, every cube can actually be solved in 27 moves or less. Or less. Y'all going to go home and dig it out tonight, aren't you? 27 moves. Let's see if I can get this. But each and every turn we make on that cube, just like in life, each and every decision we make either brings us closer to the solution or further away from it. You see, with each turn, that whole cube changes. So every decision we make affects the whole cube. So all those little pieces, so even though we're making the decision, maybe you're the decision maker in the family, or you're the decision maker at work, it's going to affect more than just you. Something to think about here, right? And how far are your decisions spreading out? How much, you throw that rock in the pond and it ripples out, how far are your decisions going with people? Jeremiah 33, 2 and 3 says, this is God's message. The God who made earth, made it livable and lasting, known everywhere as God, says, call to me and I will answer you. I'll tell you marvelous and wondrous things that you can never figure out on your own. There it is. So when you're trying to make that decision and you are just stuck, frustrated as all get out, I can't make this, I don't know what to do. Turn to God. Call out to God. He says, I will tell you marvelous and wondrous things that you could never figure out. So God is all about helping us. We've got to trust God when we turn to Him with our decisions. Trusting God is huge. But you know what? Even with that, sometimes those around you will make poor decisions that affect you. We are not immune to that, right? There's sometimes with those people at work, and your family, your friends, even people we don't know sometimes can make a decision around this that will have direct impact on us. I had to go through once every 4 years, they actually make pastors go through what's called a sexual boundaries training. So we go through a workshop, an online thing, and we watch videos and we read lots of stuff, a lot of scenarios about how do we make church a safe place for people. But you see, we had to do that because somewhere along the line, there's been issues with that, right? So you see how those decisions affect other people and they spread out. Another thing, my son is going to soccer, and this week came home from his warm his soccer practice Tuesday morning. I said, "How'd it go?" He goes, "Well, it went okay." I think, "Well, why? What happened?" He said, "They got done running and stuff and playing soccer. They went to the weight room, and the weight trainer said, 'Get yourself warmed up. Do these certain routines to get warmed up, and then we'll go on.'" So the guy came around and asked everybody, "Did you warm up? Did you warm up?" And one young man said, "Yes, I warmed up," but he hadn't. And so the guy said, "Well, show me what the warm-up is." And he couldn't show him. So the result, the entire team had to run an extra half hour because of his decision. So, yeah, it made him popular. Right? All around us, friends, there are going to be decisions made that affect us. Sometimes people we know, sometimes we don't. But we can always do those, turn to God. Trust that God is with us in the midst of whether it looks like one of the worst possible decisions ever made or one of the best possible decisions we made. You create responsibility, accountability, and integrity with your decision making. Isn't that a cute picture of the dog? Right? The more good decisions you make, you get all those check marks added to you. And then that builds your character and builds who you are. And it stretches so far in your workplace, along your friends and your family. And it goes with you and it follows you along. And it is a great thing to know that your decisions are based on God. You're conferring with God on your decisions. You know, it's kind of neat. A couple of years ago, Jennifer and I were talking about finances. And we said, well, let's bring God into this conversation here. How does our finances and what does God want us to do with our money have to do with us? And that's when we really took our big leap ahead of really becoming the givers God wanted us to give. And you know what? That has been one of the best decisions of our life. We have never once worried about anything when we gave that over to God and made that decision for God. So bring God into we create all these things again: responsibility, accountability, and integrity with your decision making. Where are you with your decision making? Everyone's made bad poor decisions. Don't worry about those, friends. They're in your past, right? They're behind you. God is ready to help us move on. Turn to God. Read the book. No shortcuts, right? Make good decisions that affect the whole cube as you bring back order. Get out the chaos and bring back order to yourself. With that, I have a video here. It's funny, this is an insurance video. It's a 3-minute commercial, Thai, T-H-A-I, not Thai, T-H-A-I insurance. And it talks about, it shows just this guy making some good decisions. And good decisions don't always mean immediate results, right? It means maybe in a few weeks or a few months, a few years, somebody comes back and says, because of your decision on this day, you changed my life. So let's take a watch of this video and come back and do communion right after that.
จะได้อะไรถ้าเขาทำแบบนี้ทุกวันเขาจะไม่ได้อะไรเลยไม่ได้รวยขึ้นไม่ได้ออกทีวีไม่มีใครรู้จักไม่ได้มีชื่อเสียงที่มากขึ้นเพราะสิ่งที่เขาได้คือได้แค่ความรู้สึกได้เห็นความสุขได้เข้าใจได้ความรักได้ในสิ่งที่เงินซื้อไม่ได้ได้โลกที่สวยงามกว่าเดิมในชีวิตคุณอะไรคือสิ่งที่คุณต้องการมากที่สุดให้ประกันชีวิตเชื่อในความดี
There it is. Watching that, I thought, wow, what the effect of our good decisions make and how far it goes. You know, the reach is just unbelievable. So that brings us to the time of communion. If you want to come on up here and begin here. So communion, you know, Jesus invites us into a life of these good decisions, into a life of connecting with God and having Him with you as part of these decision making as you go through life. Communion is for anybody. Anybody wants to. It doesn't matter how you grew up, what you look like, doesn't matter where you're from. And if you wish to receive communion here, you can just come on forward. What they'll do is they'll hand you they'll hand you a piece of bread and dip it in the juice, and then you can eat it. We do have gluten-free bread up here as well. All you need to do is ask for that, and they'll be happy to serve you that. We have a separate juice for that as well, so there's nothing involved there. So Jesus was sitting with his best friends that night, and he held up the bread, and he broke it in front of them, and he said, "This is my body that has been broken for you. Each and every time you eat this, would you remember me and rejoice?" And then he held up the cup and said, "This juice here, this is my blood, and it's been poured out just for you. So each and every time you drink this, remember me and rejoice in our life together." Would you have a word of prayer for me tonight, please? Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you with open hearts and open minds, and looking for you to work in our lives, maybe to work a miracle that we're looking for, helping us out with something we've been struggling with, or maybe it's just to get back on track with you. Jesus, maybe it's just the first time to invite you into our hearts, where there's this pit, this hole of nothingness, the mistakes that was covered up, and we want something good and wholesome to fill it. And it's just your size. Jesus, we invite you to fill our lives and to make it. Lord, we're so sorry for the things we've said and the way we've acted, the way we've treated others, those people really close to us and those we don't even know. In so many ways, we're just ashamed to even think of ourselves as somebody who follows you. But Lord, because of your mercy and grace and your love, guide us in what it is to be someone who follows you. Tonight, Lord, we come forward to remember and rejoice what it means to have you in our lives. It's in the name of Jesus we do pray. Amen. Tonight, if everyone would just kind of funnel over.